Good morning, everybody. Happy Bosses and Breakfast. Happy. I see everyone saying hi. Good morning, Diana and Tina and Dee and Charlene. Simple Purposeful Living. Good morning. Mina is jumping on as we speak.
Hey, good morning.
Hey.
Okay. Welcome, everybody. Good morning.
We are extra dressed up today.
Yes, we are. I just did a story, by the way, of why. And I have the swipe up in there. But we are hosting a panel today for social selling, and it's over at bulletin.co, which is a wholesale platform. And we have a bunch of cool people on that panel. So make sure you sign up for that. Sarah's going to drop that link in here. And we are literally back to back with that panel this morning, Jacqueline. So
yeah. So we won't be going as late today. We won't be going for the full hour.
We won't be going off the rails probably. So we're going to stay very much on track. And
well, who knows what the track is, but we will stay.
The runaway crazy train of the track of Crazy Train, which I used to love that song. And it's on Trolls 2, I believe. Mm-hmm. So
Crazy Train.
Yeah. So we will see you over there once we get done with Bosses and Breakfast, and it'll be awesome.
Yeah. All right. And Sarah, did you put questions in for today? No, right?
Okay. No, I haven't. No. Yeah. I haven't.
Yeah. I just want to make sure. I have my iPad, but I have not opened my iPad. Sarah, everyone is like, what is her official title? Did we come up with
Community it? Community concierge, but she's also Mina and Jacqueline's concierge.
She's making sure that we all get online. She's always, you'll see us, but she's always in the little window down below, kind of like messaging us and letting us know and being the person who drops in links for all of you. So the Secrets of Social Selling 101, there's a link right there that you're all able to access and join us. And Bulletin's at a fantastic platform. We teach about it in Multi-Stream Machine. It is a place for wholesale, kind of like fair.com. Women run. They're lovely ladies, and they're releasing a book. They're going to be on the podcast, and they're really about helping. And Greg says Sarah's also awesome at accountability. It's true, Greg.
So she's our mastermind concierge as well. So if you're in our masterminds, you have the option of Sarah kind of bugging you. Optional bugging of, hey, did you get this done or whatever? And it's definitely not to coach you by any means, but it's definitely just to encourage you. And so it's amazing what can be done when you have Sarah saying, hey, when you keeping you accountable.
Everybody's like, print and fluff. Yes, I went for my big shoulders. This is my Bridgerton outfit.
I love it.
Okay, well, let's get on to Instagram. How about that?
Yeah,
we should start there.
That's what I was trying to do. I don't know what happens with my headphones every single night, but I have to detangle them every time. Okay. Good thing Sarah's here putting in the links, because honestly, can you imagine the two of us? Like, I'm like, where do I go? What do I do?
Good morning, Instagram. Another Bosses and Breakfast coming at you today, Wednesday. And so we've got Mina. She's going to join us as she's sort of handling tech on the other end. We're going to chat. This is our Wednesday morning show where we talk business over breakfast. Just fun times all around. Okay, here she is. And it's shop 1 in 5. So this morning. Hi, good morning.
Hello.
So Bosses and Breakfast is brought to you by the Shop 1 in 5 pledge, where we're asking all of you to take the pledge. So to shop 1 in 5 of your purchases from a small business. But I know so many of you are actually small businesses and you're like, well, how does this help me? So what we ask is if you go over on Instagram and you follow us at shop 1 in 5, and Mina's live on that handle over here, it's shop 1 in 5. You can use that page to use some of the images that we have to then post for your customers. So what you can do is like the point and the things that we want to post there are usable posts for you to post back into your stories. You can screen grab it and put the give Shop One in 5 credit so people know what it is. And you can use that to then ask your customers to take the pledge and shop One in 5. Ultimately, we're doing it for all of you. We're really trying to bring awareness to small businesses. And so we need all of our product bosses to bring awareness. We're all in this together, and also head on over from your Instagram to that one. This thing is collapsing. Oh my God. Okay.
You guys saw my setup. I have a what are those called? Like an LED mirror. I should turn this on actually. Ta-da, did I just light up? And then I did a 3M strip that has a holder a holder for my pop socket that I put onto the mirror, which is kind of to the right side. And then I put my pop socket into the pop socket holder that's on top of the mirror that's lighting the back. Voila.
That's awesome. Maybe even on there, you can find yourself a light that doesn't fall down like mine. No.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
cool.
mean, we have tons of tripods
Yeah.
and stuff like that. It's just, I'm just going with the easiest right now.
Girly Girl Design says done. Thank you. Thank you for following Shop One in 5. So here's another thing, and you guys can DM us. We are thinking about doing some Instagram takeovers. So certain people that are those of you product bosses, if you ever wanted to do an Instagram takeover on Shop One in 5, what would happen is you all would let your customers, your followers know and say like, hey, and so the whole day you would tell them on your social platform, go follow me at Shop One in 5, and then you would log into the Shop One in 5 Instagram and probably show behind the scenes. So for small businesses, we're thinking
behind the scenes, but the lifestyle of maybe not your entire business, but definitely how you live in the pledge. Like, you know, hey, I got coffee from this place, or I ordered a gift from this place, or whatever it is throughout your day. It certainly does not need to be shopping all day from product bosses.
Yeah. It's showing you as a small business, but also then, and Elle, who runs our Shop One, she runs our Instagram now. She's watching live over here on Instagram. If you DM, she can work with you all on that. We're still fleshing out exactly what the details are, but we're down for it because you'll bring your traffic. This is that idea, right? When we talk about other people's platforms, it's twofold. So when you're gaining visibility on other people's platforms, be it ours, which right now Shop One in 5 is smaller, and then your traffic, and we start to combine it, then we start, then followers start to be aware of both brands. So that's just an example again of how that all works.
Yeah. And I think the next month is it Women Inventors Month or something like that? This month is Black History Month.
I think it's Women's History Month, isn't it?
Is it Women's History Month? Yeah. And then there's International Women's Day next month. And this
maybe that's what it is.
Yeah. This month is Black History Month. So we just putting those in there as far as consistently talking about supporting small businesses of whatever is on top of mind. So we're still working out the kinks as far as how do people show up? Because I like to have guidelines as far as what do they, show behind the scenes of, and it's a little bit easier. So, yeah, the takeover is going to be a lot of fun. We're so excited about it, but we're working out all the things still.
Okay. March is not Women's History Month.
It isn't?
No.
What is it?
It's because we are saying this because we were invited to do something for International Women's Day, but it says March is National Awareness Month for a slew of different diseases. So like cancer awareness. Okay. Does anybody else know what March is known for?
Yeah. Well, there is. Yeah. We're going to be on the panel for International Women's Day. So I thought for some reason it was, I thought it was the inventors, but that kind of leads me to what I've been thinking about this morning. What
have you been thinking about?
So we have an interview later today. It's pretty late. It's 5 p.m. my time. And it's the Invention Show. And they sent us like these preliminary questions, right? Like, what was your first job? Have you always been an entrepreneur? And I think that has always been really interesting to me because Jacqueline and I, when we have a public relations team, and they're like, send your stuff with the things that you do with your kids, because they saw my story of the kids helping me with the business. And so we're kind of talking about like how we're teaching the children. And Jacqueline's like, The children. And Jacqueline's like, I teach my kids about, like, she's taught them how to do lemonade stands and the idea of entrepreneurship. I'm very much the opposite of that. I never expected myself to be an entrepreneur. I would say I never was born an entrepreneur. It was asking, have you always been an entrepreneur? No, I didn't even identify with that word until, I always thought of myself as maybe a entrepreneur, a freelancer and a business owner, but never an entrepreneur, until I created Little Labels. And that was, like 5 years ago. And so it took me, even though I've been an entrepreneur, quote unquote, for, 15 years, that whole decade, I never used that word of being an entrepreneur. So
I didn't know that.
So I'm curious if you all have always felt like you were an entrepreneur growing up. Were you an entrepreneur? Do you feel like, it was nature versus nurture? Because for me, it was very much nurture. I think that I surround myself with different people. I feel like even with Jacqueline and myself, like, I feel like entrepreneurs have like a risk tolerance, right? And when we're surrounded by each other and we surround each other with other people, we kind of lift it gets higher and higher. This risk tolerance of what should we try, how big should we dream, all these things. I definitely, with my own children, the reason why I love now saying I'm an entrepreneur is because, even though it was nurture for me, I kind of developed into being an entrepreneur. I want to leave a different legacy for them. Right. I want them to feel like that's an option for them. For me, growing up, it was very much go to school, be or marry a lawyer.
Was it B? Did they want you to be one?
They wanted
or
me
was
to
it
be
they
very
prefer the married?
Either one, to be honest. But in practice, probably it would have been two doctors married to each other.
Okay.
And
good.
I would also be taking care of the children.
True.
So that's probably like what they imagine.
She's a doctor on the side, but she's mainly a mom.
Yeah, right. Doctor of my own making.
I remember seeing this meme saying, like, be the CEO your parents always wanted you to marry.
Yeah.
I was like,
yeah. Oh my gosh. So my mom, so it was just Lunar New Year, right? My youngest sister, she's 30 and she's not married, right? And my mom every time is like, please, like, she prays for blessings. Every time it's like, please give Skylar a good husband. Please give Skylar, make sure she's
your
married this
over
year.
Here
yeah. No. So then Skylar says, Mom, I'm going to be the CEO you've always wanted me to marry. Okay. My mom looks at her and was like, what? Like, you're not making any sense. Like, the words didn't even make sense to her.
What is the CEO that you're talking about?
And marrying you? Like, what is wrong with
caring extra for other children and children? I don't know.
We just died laughing. It was like the funniest moment.
For me, funny enough, well, like, my parents were super strict. Mina and I are both first generation Americans, so good luck. And then I was the oldest.
Yeah.
And like the type of like background, girls were needing to be watched over and taken care of and extra strict. So anyways, I wasn't allowed to wear makeup when I was younger, but I had face paint. Okay. A couple things. We're going to go down the Jacqueline rabbit hole. So one of my first companies was called Jackie's Wacky Faces. Goes to face paint because
still trademarked, by the way.
Yeah. No, just nobody try and take that name. I don't even call myself Jackie, but it rhymed. So my sister's 9.5 years younger than me. And so when I was probably like, I think it was her first birthday. So 10.5, or a couple years into it, I had face paints probably for Halloween. And then I would paint her face, and I painted the kids' faces at the birthday party. And then her friends' parents started hiring me. So I went and I remember they were like orange business cards.
How old were you though?
About probably 11.
11. Oh,
10,
wow.
11. Yeah. And I had orange business cards that I made because remember it was like on Word, or I don't know, where you could like use the icon. So I swear to God, I had like a clown face on it, like a creepy clown. And then it was black, like raised
like
lettering.
Clowns were in.
Well, I was a face painter. So, so it was Jackie's Wacky Faces. And then because my parents were so strict, so going back in that story, I wasn't allowed to wear makeup, and kids started wearing makeup to school kind of like in middle school. And I was so jealous. So genius over here. I went to Michael's and bought little, like those little plastic jewel containers. They were the colored plastic square tiny containers. And then we had a ton of Vaseline at our house. And I would take the face paint and I'd mix it with the Vaseline. I'd make lip gloss. And so I started making lip gloss and using that. And then I would even take the black and make mascara. So this is me like trying to go to school with face paint. And then I was like, I can make lip gloss. I should try and sell this to my friends. So then I started selling my friends like lip glosses in little jewel containers. So that was probably my first two businesses. And then after that, I was hired because I also, as an artist, like I was hired, I painted remember we used to paint our ceilings, like, well, I don't know, clouds and suns and moons were in. You didn't do it.
Thing.
So I painted my bathroom, like half sun, half moon, like half day and half night. And then my friend's mom was like, oh, that's so amazing. I want to paint clouds on my daughter's ceiling. So then I started painting people's kids' bedrooms. So that was all probably between 10 and probably until I was driving. And then I was like, I'm out. No, I got a job at that point. But yeah, so I think I was always entrepreneurial because I was more of just like, if you want something, then you could figure out how to make it. So I think that's what I did. And then because I could make it, I was like, ooh, I should sell it. So that's my entrepreneurial spirit. But I did not go to school. I went to college and I was like, I'm going to be a lawyer, or I don't know what I was going to be at that point. I think when I went to school and I was thinking of being a lawyer, then I realized I wanted to go to art, but it was never entrepreneurial. You know, it was like the way I think when you and I were growing up, it was like, you go to college, you get your degree, you go get a job.
Right.
So
I never thought you could make money, to be honest. Like I never understood. I don't even teach it to my children, which I probably should. Because like, do you,
wait, you don't teach your kids what?
I don't teach them how to make money. It's
I threaten it. Like you want that, you better go work for it.
I teach them that they get money for different things and they save it. Like they have a savings account and they can see it and all that stuff. But the idea of making money, I don't actually teach it to them. Like a lemonade stand, like you earn it or whatever. They do hair plays for when they want to earn apps on their iPads. Like they'll play with my hair for like 30 minutes or whatever. And they can do $1.99. My husband thinks that I'm ridiculous for how much I allow, but that's kind of like the earning thing.
But you really want your hair played with.
Yeah, exactly.
All the apps.
And but I think growing up, we never were taught to talk to people, right? So I think a lot of it is we were very scared. So the idea of selling something to somebody, you just never did, you know? Even negotiations, I'm horrible at it because I've never negotiated anything in my life. It would be like, don't sell that to somebody. They'll think you're poisoning them and then they'll kidnap you. It's like that, you know, like you're this little Asian girl, these little Asian girls in, you know, a small town in Iowa. Literally, you laugh, but that's literally the words
I know,
we hear
I am laughing
over and over.
Parents are awesome. I'm sure I've started my kids things.
Yeah. And so I don't actually teach that to my girls, though I could, right? I could do the lemonade stand. So I'm wondering, do you instill in your kids this entrepreneurial idea, how to make money? Because I do think they carry things into their future and we kind of default to whatever we learned in our lives, right? Were we an entrepreneur? Were we not an entrepreneur? How do our kids see us? Though my kids do say, like Suri was like saying how she was going to take over Low Label. So you know, yeah, right. She understands like building a business. And it's so funny because they were playing mom and dad, you know, and mom and kid. So Layla's the mom and Suri's the kid, right? So Layla's like, I have 5 meetings today and you're really going to need to be quiet.
Well, I was going to be late to this because I was half done. I had my hair done and Willa's like needing me to get into bed with her. Cause she's like, cause usually they get into bed with me in the morning, basically. Oh, yeah. And I was up earlier, like getting ready. And so she was really upset that I ruined that. And then she goes,
no, Layla was saying that, pretending to me. She was pretending to be me, the mom, you know, like that. What I was saying. Yeah.
Well, my one was like, you have to work. Can't you just change the time? Like, I want to go back to being a baby when you didn't work. I was like, I always worked, girl. I was like, I was growing my Instagram while nursing you, you know, like she has no idea. But yeah, it's a hard thing because I wonder, like, you know, and I know somebody whose mom is very I mean, she basically grew $1 billion product business. She's in my family, like my brother married into this family, and the mom grew $1 billion business, and her daughter, doesn't have that entrepreneurial spirit, right? And
Yeah.
I think it could go two ways. And I'm always curious how to tackle this with my kids, because there's one where Mina and I do work a lot, and they look at us and they're like, "Ooh, mom is working." But then there's the other side of it is of inspiring that, like where it's not like, "Ooh, she's always working. I don't want that for myself." So I'm always kind of on that back and forth of like how to bring them into it. So I think part of it is, the fun stuff, like doing fun things with you and I. And then also I always, when they ask me for things, I'm like, great, you can save for that. You can go offer to cut someone's lawn, or you can help us in the house and we'll pay you for it. And then you can buy something you want with it. I mean, we definitely still buy them things that they're not, we don't always make them work for things, but there is a level of doing that. And then I wonder sometimes, is that a threat? Like, is it like, oh, I have to work for money? So I'm not really sure how it was instilled in me. I think it was just looking at it and knowing that I wanted something like that. And there's 5 kids in my family. 4 of us are all entrepreneurs. The last one, my sister, she's a occupational therapist. So I don't know.
Yeah. I know. It's like, are people born with that? Is it nature versus nurture? It's so funny because it's like they grow up and you don't know what they want to do. Like even my kids, I'm like, I want them to go to school, but they might go to trade school. They might go to, do specific, like a vocational school. Right. So whatever it is, or they might just be an entrepreneur, not just be an entrepreneur. They might do the same thing that I did, though I do have the school background. So I think they need to figure it out from themselves, but it's so hard teaching that, right? Like I want them, sometimes I'm like, am I teaching them enough for them to be like sufficient in the real world, And then other times I'm like, but they can just live with me forever.
The different types of parents that you and I are. No, I know. I don't know. I mean, things are so different. Who knows? Who knows what any of us are doing? Honestly,
right.
I sometimes tell my kids, I'm like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just trying to figure this one out.
Yeah. I think
but
with you though, Willa's probably more fixated on you because she doesn't go to virtual or
oh yeah,
school, So it's like she's looking like the
she's
kids
master
here.
manipulator these days.
The kids here, they're in virtual school, so they do have other things to focus on. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? It's not based around your schedule. Whereas like over there, James is homeschooling, it's based around your schedule,
Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot of like, I love all these comments of all of you sharing your stories. I mean, and I think the thing is it's just modeling. I think the thing for me is that my mom didn't work, but she was super creative. She still is. She was making things. She would try and sell them. That was her thing. My dad was an entrepreneur and could literally make money out of nothing. So I was always kind of given that example of, he started from nothing. Like he used to tell us he grew up in a tent and played with pots and pans, right? So the fact that he could provide for 5 kids and our lifestyle and whatnot. So I saw that you could make something out of nothing, which I think is something for all of you to realize. I know some of us lean in different ways, and Mina and I very much are of the opinion that we could always start over. Like her and I are both good at growing businesses, starting businesses, that kind of thing. But with our kids, I think it's the idea of they have options, right? I think somewhat of when it wasn't really pushed in my family, funny enough. Actually, I don't even think my parents cared about college. I was the first one to go to college, but I had options, right? When I decided to leave UC Santa Barbara and I decided to go to art school, even though it was a 4-year school, my parents were behind me, and I would get questions from other people's parents saying, your parents are okay with you leaving a UC to go to an art school? It's like, yeah, they want me to follow like my passions. And then when I was employed, I was hired out of school, and then I had this opportunity to start my own business. And again, my parents leaned to, well, try it. Go ahead and try it, and you can always get hired again. And that's kind of how at 26 I started my own company, because they encouraged, they were, I guess they are more risk takers. So I think with our children, I think it'll be the idea of like, you can go to college, and if they have talents that we can cultivate, like my son isn't, like we've been talking to him about, becoming an architect and that kind of thing. And he may have to go to school for that, but like, it'll never be like, you have to go work for the man. Like, it's like, if you eventually want to start your own architecture company, you could. Who knows if he'll really be one. But I think it's just giving them options and then being supportive no matter what they choose.
Here's the flip side of that.
Okay, tell me.
I hid from my parents that I owned my own business for years and years and years. They always thought I was working for other people.
Really?
Yeah, even now, my sister switched jobs, right? And she was like complaining about her job was really hard. And he was like, "You're just on a computer." Literally said that to her.
Because your parents worked in factories, so they had
Yes,
like
in
harder
factories. And they
work.
were just like, these girls are not hardworking at all, thinking that we're just on computers. Like, what
But
do
I'm
we have
getting
to
carpal
complain?
tunnel.
The screen is giving me a headache. Like he literally was like rolling his eyes at her. He was really mad at her. My dad used, because she
Uh-huh.
quit her job before she found a new one. So the flip side of that, right, is like, that was for me something that my parents did not want me to do. But I look at what happened here. Jacqueline and I ended up in the same place.
Right.
So does it matter that we give them options? Maybe they end up where they end up,
Well,
because
yeah, of
my
course.
parents were not encouraging me. Not that they wouldn't. It was that I was scared to tell them because I knew deep down. Well, I knew for sure they were going to be very vocal about wanting me to be working for somebody else because the stability of me
Right.
going to school and working for somebody else and being safe and taken care of and all those things, that's what they wanted for me, right? So it's funny how things work out because even though they didn't encourage that, I ended up doing what I did, even though that wasn't like built in my blood per se. And then we ended up in the same place.
Yeah, I love it. Like Katie and Wild Clementine's. Wild Clementine started when she was 8. Katie started selling when she was 9. So yeah, I think you're right. I mean, it really nature versus nurture. I guess it doesn't really matter. I don't think Mina ever thought she'd be. I was never going to be a podcaster. Funny enough, when we were asked by the PR team about our kids and working with them, and Lauren, who's also on our team, she was like, yeah, Jacqueline's daughter Willa is like really like her, like really, in front of the screen. I was like, this was not always. This is like in the last 3 years.
Yeah, right. It is funny, right?
But I was not the like. I really didn't. I didn't want to be seen. Like I liked being a fashion designer and being behind the scenes of it. Like I did not want to be the model. Like I've walked down runways before and been like, hi, I'd like to go back there and make sure the clothes are fitting. And so I think it comes with confidence and practice, right? Like you and I didn't start doing lives and things like that when we started this. We started talking to a microphone, just the two of us, for the podcast. When I would speak on panels or in front of audiences, still super sweaty, still super nervous, hoping to God that what I was saying made sense for people or
we
was
hated
right.
our voices. We hated our laughs.
Like voicemail voices. Remember when you listen to answering machines? You're like, oh my God, I can't believe that's my voice. It's like nobody has voicemail anymore.
Now when I hear my voice, I don't even know if it's me or Jacqueline talking. That's how normal it is.
I'm like, is that Mina or me? Oh, it's Mina.
Right? And, it's just crazy to think about because like I heard somebody say this, they called it law of exposure. And it was like it's kind of like who you get exposed to and who you surround yourself with. So there were people that I was like, oh, they own their own business. Somewhere in my journey, I picked up on it, And so I think that with all of us, we surround each other with other product bosses. You get exposed to certain things and you're like, oh my gosh. I think that's why people relate to at least one of us is they're like, well, she ended up there and then she ended up there too, or whatever else. And it's that the people you surround yourself with that you somehow get there because of your journey. And it's like you pick up on different things. And I do think that also it's what you said, I wrote it down, confidence and practice, because then you practice it and you get more confident and you start going a certain direction. And then you never really end up anywhere. You're just there. But it really does have to do with that, what you were exposed to, the people you surround yourself with a lot of times.
I mean, can I share a secret with everybody? Mina and I had no idea what we were doing when we started this.
No, we knew how to run a business. We just didn't know how to coach others in it.
No. I mean, I've been a coach forever, like like a podcasting, right?
Yeah.
Like we got on and we're like, hey, let's come up with this content. And we listened to podcasts. My business coach at that time is a big podcaster, things like that. We didn't really, but we started and we started trying and then we tried something else.
Remember? We were like, what if we run out of things to say? I don't think in the many, if anything,
Knock
our
on
episodes
wood.
go too long.
Let's get with the conversation, right? But that's the thing, right? So all of you, wherever you are in your journey right now, I just want you to know, like this, you were not like you're still in the process of learning, right?
Yeah.
Confidence, wherever you are right now, like you're gonna look back at this and be like, ha ha, chuckle, chuckle. Remember when I was like that?
Mhm.
You just it's the same way that I tell my kids, like I've never been a mom to an 8-year-old before. And
Mhm.
I'm gonna learn. And then, and then I'll be a mom to a 10-year-old. And, like as they get older, and it's the same with your businesses, right? You've never been a business owner of a business at this level before. And then you'll
Yeah.
continue to grow. So just give yourselves grace as you're doing it, and keep our voices in your head when we're like, we didn't know what we were doing, or
Mhm.
still figuring it out, or confidence, like you're like, oh yeah, Jacqueline, she's so animated on video. Well, not always. I mean, there's videos of me when I was a
Maybe
kid.
in comparison to me,
I
like
mean, but I didn't want attention, so James always makes fun of me because there's this one
but
video of
not in
me.
comparison to James.
James's parents said that
Ain't
his favorite
nobody at that level, okay?
his
Ain't nobody
favorite
at that
toy
level.
was a mirror.
Every kid's is.
Oh yeah, no. I mean, and Willa and James are really similar with like the dancing, and I mean they're very positive humans. I think it's so amazing.
Mhm.
Me on the other hand, it was like Halloween and my parents were trying to put me on camera, and I was so mad that they wanted me on camera, and all I was like, it's like Oliver, actually. I was like, I have nails. That was me with like fake nail. I have nails. And then like, so James all the time now will go to me like, I have nails, when I'm like my bratty self.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you just don't know until you do
Yeah,
it.
you don't know what you don't know. It does get easier, but it doesn't mean that it's like right, because even when you have your first kid, you have your second kid, like what Jacqueline says, and you're not used to like right now, having a 10-year-old daughter to me is she feels like an alien sometimes, even though, but does that mean the second one will be easier? Maybe, but it doesn't mean that it's not gonna be hard. You know? So I think as entrepreneurs, it's not like you learn something la-di-da and then that's when it's done. You've perfected the art of video, for example. How many of you watched my hot tip?
Actually,
My hot
people were
tip Tuesday?
commenting over here on Instagram about like great hot tip yesterday.
Yeah.
The best
So
three best by Gray. Yeah.
Lauren is our assistant, and I struggled with the hot tip the whole time. I took an hour and a half to record this 5-minute freaking hot tip. I was like, you know how like you want to like slam your head against the desk, and you're like, oh my god. Then I walk around, pace around, and I was determined though because I was like, I have to do this even when it's hard. And that's kind of what the hot tip was all about: is doing things. It's a muscle, so you can't just do things when they're easy. You have to do things when they're hard too. I could have, which Jacqueline offered, I could have just given it to Jacqueline, right? Because different skill sets. But I was determined to build that muscle, that skill set. And I've been working really hard on it. And it was like straight from the struggle bus, is what I had said. So I still, even after I sent that, because I was a bit rambly and blah, 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 I kept thinking, should I have sent that? Am I professional enough? That self doubt creeps in because you're not showing yourself in the best, most confident way. But I did it. And then this morning, Lauren Voxered me and she's like, I'm getting so many messages like this. And it was a screenshot of an email that somebody was like thanking me for the hot tip because they were like, I love to see how this was everything. And I love to see how things don't have to be perfect and that it is a muscle and that you still have to, it still feels hard because people feel alone in it, right? They feel like
Mhm.
there's these experts that it seems like everything's easy, but it's not all the time.
Mhm.
There's never going to be a time when you're just free flowing easy. Everything's wonderful. There's going to be a balance always. And so I was really relieved at that. And I was like, thank God, because I still, even after I sent it, was like, should I have sent that? And I was like, that's a relief. And she's like, no, it was great. So even still that reassurance after that. But that's what I want to remind you guys of, is that it really is about practicing over and over, and you get to a certain level of confidence like you do with numbers or video or whatever it is that you're working on, but it doesn't mean that that absolves all the hardness of it, that it like, oh, I don't have to go through the struggle anymore. It's just hard being an entrepreneur. It's hard being a freaking human, like It's fine. So I hope that helped with everybody. But even still, as I'm talking about that hot tip, I feel very uncomfortable about it.
I mean, but that's the thing, right? And that's something we've been pushing to all of you is authenticity and being you, right? So as business owners, and as you start to show your products and you show up for people, whether it's, phone calls to your customers, on email, on your social channels, whatever it is, it's the idea of being authentic. Now, it's not saying, if you sell, I don't know, jewelry, it depends on the relationship that you have with your customers. You're not probably going to show up and be crying. I mean, you might if something really bad happens.
Down that path of vulnerability. I think my point was more so everybody has their own version of hard.
Right.
So for video and stuff, it is okay to be vulnerable and all that stuff. I wouldn't say that everybody needs to see every side of you, right? But I think the point more so is like over here, Simple Purposeful Living said, she's in multi-stream machines. She said, Amazon FBA is feeling so hard and I know it's just learning and growing, right? Amazon FBA is so easy to me.
This is 5 years later.
Yeah, right? So, but there's still things where I jump in, I'm like, this is really hard, like Amazon FBA in a different scope. So I just want to alleviate you guys of feeling like you shouldn't go through hard things. When you're in the hard is when you're learning the most. It's when you're growing by leaps and bounds, have you watched the Next Fashion Star or Next in Fashion? It's on Netflix.
No, I just got done with the Goop series. I don't know if anyone's watched that.
Oh, really? No, I haven't watched that either. So they put them in teams of 2 and they make them go through challenges together. Some of them know each other and some of them don't. Every single time, one of them breaks down for a different reason. Whether they're too good at it, whether they're not good enough, whether that's not their thing that they're good at, in that, like, they're all fashion designers, but some of it's like the challenges like military or lingerie or doing a suit tailoring or whatever.
It's kind of like PTSD for me out of fashion school, so I don't really watch the fashion show.
But it's really good because you get to see, they force them to do a dynamic because they have a partner. And then they do individual challenges. So that's what I liked about it. And also it's Tan France who's the host, and it's really uplifting. It's not like the old school where they pit you against each other. Yeah. It's like super collaborative.
That's my reality show experience.
Yeah. They don't pit you against each other. But, like everything, even the best of the best at the suit tailoring one, they were like struggling because they're like, oh, I have all this pressure of living up to this challenge, right? So everybody had their own version of hard. And the people that grew really leaps and bounds, at the end of it, even when they're eliminated, they were like, I've never learned so much in my life. I've never experienced something like this in my life. It's because they challenged themselves in different ways that they just know what they know in the real world, right? They were tailoring suits, they were doing menswear, but in the challenge, they were doing things that they were forced to do with people they didn't know or they did know, and they had to like balance that all. Is very like, when you think of it, it's the product. They're building a product to go on a runway. It's the same thing that you all do.
Mm-hmm. Annika says she feels the same way as me. She can't watch them because it's traumatizing.
It's traumatizing. Yeah, that's how I feel about Shark Tank sometimes.
Yeah, I can't watch it either.
Yeah, not that
for me, it's like it's like a new client call, and I'm like,
for me, it's working. Like, though I do love me some Mark Cuban, and every advice that he gives, I love. But sometimes it's just like so frustrating for me that I don't know. It's just really.
You're like, fix your margins. If only you could do X.
Most times I'm like, are you listening to him? And so it's like, instead it's frustrating instead of inspiring, though I do like the updates that they give because I'm like, it's like I want them to realize their dreams in a way, and it's like frustrating that they won't or something. I don't know.
Totally. Well, this is amazing. And so what I want you all to think about, and I don't know if you want to drop this into the comments for us, but what's a hard thing that you went through that has changed you, right? Or you went through and maybe now it's not hard for you anymore. So just as you start to think about things, I remember and as you put those into the comments, I remember, with Oliver, like my delivery was like 3.5 hours of pushing or something. And I remember after that, when I'd be in yoga class, like holding a pose, I'd be like, I could push for 3.5 hours. I could hold this pose. But
If
like
you can get through that, right?
I could get through it, right? I had some experience that I could relate back to as I was thinking about my physical strength, let's call it. So, that's amazing. So Katie says, getting sober. Now I coach women in sobriety. That's amazing. So yeah, so the thing here is for all of you, it's thinking back. Sometimes it's great to anchor on something that you went through that was hard, and you see that you're transformed on like the other side. And then how do you continue to do that when it feels hard? You can remind yourself of that.
Over here, they say, showing my face on stories. A Fair Boutique said, showing my face on stories. Tortan Chickadee says, putting my face as a model on the website. That was actually Brooke of Be Happy. Remember, she was actually Monday's episode. I don't know if she talks about it in the episode, but she talked about it with us, maybe pre-call, that she didn't love being the model. She does slouch knit hats. She didn't love being the model of her hats. And then we kind of pushed her to do it. And she's fantastic because people need to see, a hat on a head a lot of times to see how it fits, or how, especially a slouch hat, how it works. And so you'll have to listen to her episode. It was Monday's Female Founder.
Yeah. Jen says surviving cancer twice. Wow, Jen. 100%. So
Yeah.
I mean, that's you take the cake there. No. But as you're all thinking through these things, think about what's hard. Know that it's not easy. It looks easy to some people. It's because they're willing to put in the effort. And then eventually it gets easier.
Yeah,
right?
It gets easier. And there's days where it still feels very hard. And those are the days you push through it. Seriously.
Yeah.
So it's the days where you are like, I gave the example of some days you're like, oh my God, let's say you're working out, in a different world. Let's say you're working out, right? You're working out, you're going to the gym. There will be days that you're like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. I cannot go to the gym today. I cannot. It's like the biggest resistance, right? That's when you push harder to go on those days, because that's when your muscle is being built the strongest, is because those are the hard days. You're doing it anyways, even though you don't want to, right?
Yeah.
Just like I said, I could have been like, 5 minutes. I literally said the words, Jacqueline could do this video in her sleep, right? And for me, I was like, it's been this long. It's been an hour and a half. If I don't have something, I'm going to sit here until I have something. And that's probably not the best way to look at it sometimes, but it was something that was important to me, building that muscle, even when I didn't want to, that resistance will go down from there. And so I think that that's the thing for Greg. He said, taking time to understand my numbers instead of creating all these new fragrances. Now I know my numbers. I'm more confident, right? Lots of times we don't want to look at numbers. We don't want to be confident or even aware of them because we're afraid of what they're going to say. And so that feels hard.
Yeah. Lynn, Lynn says surviving the death of my husband and rebuilding my business. And sorry about that, Lynn. But it's the strength that, human beings, it's amazing what we can do, right? And you don't know it until you're challenged with it. And so there's some examples here of life-changing, altering things. And then there's, the other side of it. And it's okay. It's hard for humans at all different points, and whatever we're dealing with, right? I like this one that Christina says. She says, every time I get overwhelmed with business, I have to remember that I'm training myself to be a different person in my head daily. I have never done this before. I'm training myself to be something I've never been before. That's so wonderful. Thank you for sharing that.
Oh my gosh. That's 100% true. I mean, right now, because even when I think about that little girl, Mina, she wasn't who she needed to be here, right? A lot of times it's like, who do you need to be in that dream life that you need, that you want, right? That dream life. So it's like thinking about that dream life, you have to become a different person a lot of times.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of hard things here that everyone's sharing. So thank you for sharing and being vulnerable and sharing with us in this community too. So it's amazing. And someone else had said they are really loving our Product Boss Facebook community because of the support in there. And that's what we're hoping to cultivate, that you're all there for each other and you lift each other up, you pull each other up, all the things, right? As Jen's mom would do, you help that person get up, dust themselves off, and start again.
So that I think that's where we should leave it. Actually, is I would
Yeah.
want a hard thing, at least it is for me, or I think it is for a lot of people, is now that you're seeing all these people give these parts of them, sharing these journeys that were hard for them. I want to task you with reaching out to one of them that stands out to you, thanking them for putting an imprint into your day, your life, whatever that is, and being like, thank you for sharing that. That was really courageous of you. So doing a reaching out to
So
somebody.
scroll up through these comments and see if there's somebody that you want to reach out to. It can be someone that had a traumatic something, but it also can be
Mhm.
someone who's talking about business, right? Like it's whoever you resonate with, but to support each other for sure.
Right. So you're connecting with somebody, right?
All right. So, Sarah, would you mind dropping that link again for Bulletin? So, Mina and I have to jump off a bit early today. At the top of the hour, we're hosting a panel for Bulletin.co. They are a major company that we work with and partner with in a lot of things. They are a similar platform to Fair, where they help connect all of you product-based business brands with retailers, with shops, and it's a platform for wholesale. And we're doing the Secrets of Social Selling 101. And if you're watching on Instagram, it's hard. It's so long. Okay, it's Bulletin. So I don't know how to tell this Instagram.
No, go to, if you're on Instagram.
Do we have a link in our bio or?
Yeah, we have a link in our bio. I had Sarah put it in this morning because I looked at that and was like,
bulletin.norby.live/wholesale.
I also did a story with a swipe up. So if you go back to my stories, you on Instagram, you can do a swipe up there and it will take you straight to there. So yeah, we are hosting the panel, meaning we're asking the questions, and it will be all about these different product entrepreneurs that have done different things with their businesses. So they're sharing their journeys. There's some really interesting ones. I looked them over this morning really briefly. It was like one that has to do with periods, another one that's organic burn. When you burn yourself when you're cooking, what is that? Like a heat burn?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, she was a chef and she couldn't find any burn cream. I don't know why.
Okay.
I didn't say that.
I was like, because I have a major scar from burning myself right here.
Yeah,
so
right. Curling
iron.
In hers, it was for being a chef, and she created an organic burn cream for it. And so really interesting people that will be on that panel. And so you definitely should hop over there. And you'll sign up.
Yeah. And finally, so if you're on Instagram, go to link in our bio. Also, if you're on Facebook, if you want to. And finally, do us a favor, follow us at Shop 1 in 5 on Instagram. Share it with your customers and take the pledge, which you would go to www.shop1in5.com. And if you're looking for gifts, we still have the directory up there as well. So there's 600 product-based business owners up there if you're looking to support each other as well. So we'll see you all over at Bulletin, or we'll see you over on the podcast.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, friends.